The thunderclap hit like a freight train smashing through the night, shaking the flimsy walls of my cabin until the windows rattled like they might shatter into 1,000 shards of regret. I bolted upright in bed, heart pounding against my ribs as if it were trying to escape the storm, and maybe me, clutching the sheets soaked with sweat and the first fat drops of rain seeping through the roof. Outside, the Pacific roared its fury, waves clawing at the cliffs of this godforsaken stretch of California coast. And in that split second, I knew. The storm wasn't just coming. It was here to devour everything, including the fragile walls I'd built around my own buried truths. I'd moved to Eldridge Bay 6 months ago, chasing the ghost of a fresh start after the divorce that had gutted me like a fish on the docks. At 28, Alex Harper was supposed to have it all figured out. Steady job as a freelance graphic designer. A dog named Milo who was more loyal than any ex, and a view of the ocean that promised peace. But peace was a lie, especially when your heart still whispered questions you weren't ready to answer. Questions about why the touch of a man's hand in that crowded San Francisco bar last year had lingered like a brand on your skin. I shoved those thoughts down, buried them under sketches and solitary hikes, until nights like this clawed them back up. The power flickered once, twice, then died with a pathetic hum, plunging the cabin into inky blackness broken only by the strobe of lightning painting the room in harsh whites and deep shadows. Wind howled through the cracks, carrying the metallic tang of salt and ozone, and I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, cursing under my breath as Milo's anxious whine pierced the din from his crate in the corner. "Easy, boy," I murmured, clipping on his leash with shaking hands. The roof groaned above us, a low creak that sounded like bones cracking, and panic surged hot in my veins. This wasn't just a squall. It was the monster they'd warned about on the radio all week, the one barreling in from the open sea with winds clocked at 70 miles an hour, promising floods and fallen trees and the kind of isolation that stripped you bare. I yanked open the door, and the storm slapped me across the face. Rain like needles, wind yanking at my hoodie as if it wanted to tear it off and expose every vulnerability I'd hidden. Milo barked furiously, digging his paws into the gravel path that led from my place to the cluster of cabins dotting the bluff. Eldridge Bay was one of those forgotten pockets of America, where fishermen's shacks clung to the edge like stubborn barnacles, and neighbors kept their distance with polite nods and shared gossip over coffee at the one diner on Main Street. But tonight, distance was a luxury I couldn't afford. My eyes locked on the cabin next door, the one with the blue shutters and the faint glow of lantern light spilling from the windows. Jordan's place. Jordan Hale, the quiet guy in his early 30s who'd moved in a month after me, with his salt and pepper stubble, those green eyes that seemed to see too much, and a smile that hit like a rogue wave, warm and disorienting all at once. We'd exchanged hellos over fences, borrowed tools for minor fixes, even shared a beer on his porch one sunset when the sky bled orange into the sea. He was a writer, or so the rumors went. Something about novels that never saw the light of day, holed up with his typewriter and a stack of dog-eared classics. There was an ease to him, a steadiness that made my chest tighten in ways I didn't want to name, but we'd never crossed that invisible line into real conversation. Until now. The path between our cabins was a muddy gauntlet, pockmarked with puddles that swelled into ponds under the onslaught, and as another thunderboom rattled the sky, I made the call. No time for pride or pretense. "Come on, Milo," I yelled over the gale, and we bolted toward salvation. The wind shoved us sideways, rain blinding me as branches snapped overhead like gunfire. Milo's leash strained, his body low to the ground, and I slipped once, knee slamming into the gravel hard enough to draw blood, but adrenaline burned it away. Jordan's door loomed like a beacon, and I pounded on it with my fist, the wood vibrating under my knuckles. "Jordan, it's Alex. Open up." My voice cracked, swallowed by the roar, but then the door swung wide, and there he was, framed in the golden flicker of candlelight, hair tousled, wearing a faded gray tee that hugged his broad shoulders, concern etching deep lines around his eyes. "Jesus, Alex, get in here." His hand shot out, strong fingers wrapping around my wrist, pulling me inside with a force that sent warmth flooding through me despite the chill. The door slammed shut behind us, muffling the chaos to a dull thrum, and Milo shook himself violently, spraying water like a sprinkler. Jordan released me too quickly, stepping back with a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You look like a drowned rat. Both of you." He crouched to scratch Milo's ears, his touch gentle, and something in my gut twisted. Gratitude, relief, or maybe the spark of something more dangerous. The cabin smelled of pine and old books, a far cry from the sterile emptiness of mine. Shelves lined the walls, groaning under the weight of leather-bound tomes and yellowed manuscripts. A stone fireplace crackling with fresh logs he'd clearly just thrown on. It was cozy, intimate, the kind of space that wrapped around you like an embrace, and as he tossed me a towel from a hook by the door, I caught the faint scent of his soap, cedar and sea salt, grounding me in the midst of the madness. "Thanks," I muttered, rubbing at my hair, avoiding his gaze because those green eyes were too steady, too knowing. Storm hit harder than I thought. Roofs leaking like a sieve, powers out. Figured I'd rather not drown alone. He chuckled, low and rough, pouring 2 mugs of what smelled like hot coffee from a thermos on the mantel. "Smart call. This one's holding, but barely. Forecast says it's peaking in the next hour. Could be trees down, roads washed out. We're stuck, neighbor." The word hung between us, casual but charged, and he handed me the mug, our fingers brushing in a way that sent a jolt straight to my core. I sipped to hide the flush creeping up my neck, the steam curling like secrets in the air. We settled on the worn leather couch facing the fire, Milo curling at our feet with a contented sigh, and for a moment, the storm felt distant, a mere backdrop to the crackle of flames and the rhythm of rain on the roof. Jordan leaned back, legs stretched out, his knee inches from mine, and I stole a glance at the way the light played across his jaw, the faint scar above his lip that I'd wondered about since day one. "So," he said, breaking the silence, "what brings a city boy like you to a nowhere town like this? Escaping something? Or chasing it?" The question landed like a hook in still water, tugging at depths I hadn't plumbed in months. I set the mug down, staring into the fire as memories flickered. Sarah's tear-streaked face in our San Francisco apartment, the way she'd screamed about my distractions, the late nights I'd spent scrolling profiles on apps I swore I'd delete. Both, maybe, I admitted, voice rough, divorce, needed space to figure shit out. The words felt heavy, inadequate, but his nod was slow, understanding without pity, and it cracked something open in me. He took a pull from his mug, eyes distant. "I get that. Eldridge has a way of forcing clarity, whether you want it or not." Thunder grumbled outside, a low warning, and the cabin lights, battery-powered lanterns, flickered as if echoing the tension coiling in the room. We talked then, halting at first, about the town, the salty tang of chowder at the diner, the way the fog rolled in like a lover's breath at dawn. But as the wind picked up, battering the shutters, our words turned deeper, skirting the edges of truths we'd both buried. Jordan's laugh was rare, a rumble that warmed the chill seeping from the floorboards, and when he leaned forward to toss another log on the fire, his arm brushed mine, lingering just a beat too long. By the time the clock on the mantel struck midnight, the storm had us pinned, the world outside reduced to a blur of black and fury. Milo snored softly, the fire popped, and Jordan's gaze met mine across the dim space, heavy with unspoken weight. "You ever feel like life's just one big tempest?" he murmured, voice barely above the rain. "Waiting for the eye to hit, so you can see what's really there?" My throat tightened, pulse thundering louder than the waves below. Every damn day, and in that admission, as lightning split the sky, I felt the first real crack in the walls I'd built. Not from the storm, but from the man sitting inches away, his presence a quiet hurricane of its own. The night wore on, the conversation weaving like vines through the cracks in our defenses. Jordan shared fragments of his life, a childhood in the Rust Belt towns of Ohio, where steel mills coughed smoke and dreams rusted alongside them. A scholarship to a writing program in New York that promised escape but delivered heartbreak instead. "I thought words could fix anything," he said, tracing the rim of his mug with a calloused thumb. "Turns out they just make the silences louder." His eyes held mine, green depths flecked with gold in the firelight, and I wondered what silences he meant. The ones about family or love, or the kind of longing that simmers unspoken between two men sharing a couch in a storm. I countered with my own scraps. The graphic design gigs that paid the bills but starved the soul. The way Milo's wagging tail was the only unconditional love I'd known since Sarah walked out. She said I was distant. I confessed, the words bitter on my tongue. But truth is, I was lost. Still am, half the time. The admission hung there, raw and exposed, and Jordan's hand landed on my shoulder. Firm, reassuring, igniting a spark that raced down my spine. "Lost isn't the end, Alex," he said softly. "It's just the map unfolding." As the fire died to embers, we moved to the kitchen for more coffee, the cabin's nooks revealing more of him. A photo on the fridge of a younger Jordan with arms around two grinning guys at a beach bonfire, their faces blurred by time and fingerprints. A notebook open on the counter, scrawled lines about tempests of the heart. The storm raged on, a relentless percussion, but inside, a different rhythm built, tentative, electric. When a gust shook the foundations, rattling dishes in the cabinets, Jordan steadied me with a hand on my back, his touch lingering, and I didn't pull away. Instead, I turned, our faces inches apart, breaths mingling in the charged air. "Tell me something real," I whispered, the words slipping out unbidden. His eyes darkened, a storm of their own, and for a heartbeat, I thought he might close the gap. But then thunder crashed, shattering the moment, and he stepped back, jaw tight. "Not yet," he murmured, voice laced with regret. "Not like this." We retreated to the couch as the wind howled its frustration, wrapping ourselves in blankets against the draft. Milo wedged between us, a furry buffer, and sleep tugged at the edges, fitful and fraught with dreams of waves crashing over hidden shores. Sometime before dawn, I woke to Jordan's quiet breathing, his head tipped back, vulnerability etching his features in repose. The secret he carried, whatever it was, shadowed even his sleep, and as the storm began to weary, I vowed silently. When the skies cleared, I'd uncover it. Because in the heart of the rage, I'd found something worth the tremble. A connection that promised to rewrite my map entirely. Dawn crept in grudgingly, a pale smear of gray light filtering through the salt-crusted windows, as if the sun itself were too battered to rise fully after the night's assault. The storm had ebbed to a sullen drizzle, the wind's fury reduced to weary gusts that whispered against the eaves like exhausted confessions, but the world outside was a wreckage. Branches strewn like broken limbs across the path, the ocean still churning with whitecaps that foamed against the cliffs like angry mouths. I stirred on the couch, neck stiff from the awkward angle, Milo's warm weight draped across my lap, and for a disorienting moment, I forgot where I was, until Jordan's soft snore pulled me back. His blanket slipped half off, revealing the taut line of his collarbone rising and falling in the half-light. Guilt twisted in my gut as I eased Milo down and stood, joints protesting, to peer out the window. The bluff was a mess, mudslides scarring the hillside in fresh brown gashes, and in the distance, the faint wail of a siren echoed from town. Emergency crews no doubt digging out the unlucky. My phone, fished from my pocket, showed no signal. The screen cracked from the night's chaos, and a wave of isolation crashed over me harder than any rogue wave. Stuck, not just with the storm's aftermath, but with him, with the man whose nearness had stirred something dormant and dangerous in the quiet hours. I glanced back, watching the way his lashes fanned against his cheeks, the faint furrow between his brows even in sleep, and my heart stuttered. What the hell was I doing? Coffee. Focus on that. I padded to the kitchen, the floorboards cool under my bare feet, and rummaged for the thermos, pouring a mug with hands that still trembled from adrenaline or anticipation. I couldn't tell which. The rich aroma filled the space, grounding me, and as I leaned against the counter, notebook in my peripheral, curiosity won out. I didn't touch it, just read the top page over the edge. In the eye, we see not calm, but the raw pulse of what we've hidden, the loves we deny, the storms we invite. My breath caught, the words slicing through me like a knife through fog. Who was he writing for? Who was the we? A rustle from the living room snapped me back, and Jordan appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes, hair a glorious mess that begged for fingers to tame it. "Morning, survivor," he said, voice gravelly from disuse, a crooked smile tugging at his lips. "You make a habit of raiding neighbors' kitchens at the crack of doom?" "Guilty?" I shot back, handing him a mug to cover the heat rising in my face. "Figured we earned it after last night. You sleep okay?" He took a sip, leaning beside me, our shoulders brushing in the narrow space. A casual contact that felt anything but like the dead. "You?" His gaze flicked to the window, then back, lingering on my mouth for a fraction too long, and the air thickened, charged with the remnants of unspoken tension. Fitful. Dreams about drowning. It was half-truth. The dreams had been of hands in the dark, urgent and seeking, faces blurring between familiar and forbidden. We stood there, sipping in companionable silence, the drip of rain outside a metronome to our breathing, until he broke it with a sigh. "Power might be out till afternoon. Radio says roads are flooded, main streets a river. We're proper castaways." The word sent a thrill through me, equal parts dread and delight. Castaways, like some pulp adventure but with higher stakes, the kind that peeled back layers until only truth remained. "Well," I said, forcing levity, "at least we've got Milo for comic relief, and your literary wisdom to keep us sane." He laughed, that deep rumble that vibrated through the counter, and set his mug down to ruffle Milo's ears as the dog trotted in, tail wagging like a flag of truce. "Speaking of, you hungry? I've got eggs and that cast-iron skillet. Nothing says apocalypse like breakfast." We cooked together, a clumsy duet in the dim kitchen, him cracking eggs with practiced ease, me chopping onions that stung my eyes like fresh tears. The sizzle of butter filled the air, mingling with the salt of the sea breeze sneaking through a cracked window, and as we bantered about the diner's rubbery omelets versus home-cooked perfection, the domesticity settled over us like a blanket. It was easy, too easy, the way our movements synced. His hip bumping mine as he reached for salt, my hand steadying the pan when a gust rattled the panes. But beneath it, the undercurrent pulled stronger, memories of his touch in the storm's grip resurfacing like debris on the tide. Plates in hand, we returned to the couch, Milo eyeing us hopefully for scraps, and the conversation flowed freer now, lubricated by caffeine and the intimacy of shared survival. Jordan talked about his writing, the novel he'd shelved after New York, a tale of two brothers lost at sea, metaphor for fractures he'd never mended. It's about what we carry, he said, fork pausing midair, eyes on the fire we'd rekindled. The weights we don't name, family expectations, the paths not taken. His voice dipped, laced with a shadow that made my chest ache. I nodded, swallowing a bite that tasted like ash. Sounds heavy. What stopped you from finishing? He set his plate aside, leaning forward, elbows on knees, the firelight carving hollows in his cheeks. Fear, mostly, of putting it out there, of people seeing too much of me in the words. A pause, heavy as the rain-swollen clouds outside. You ever write? Or draw something that scares you? My fork stilled. As a designer, I'd poured clients' visions onto screens, but my sketchbook, the one hidden under my bed, held the real stuff. Abstract swirls of bodies entwined, faces half-shadowed with longing. Faces that looked suspiciously like his in recent pages. Yeah, I admitted, voice low. Stuff I don't show anyone. Feels like handing over pieces of your soul. Exactly. His eyes met mine, intense, searching, and the room shrank, the world narrowing to the space between us. But sometimes, Alex, you have to, or the storm inside eats you alive. The words hung, a challenge wrapped in vulnerability, and before I could respond, a sharp crack echoed from outside. Not thunder, but with splintering. We both jumped, Milo barking as Jordan bolted to the window. Shit, the oak by your place. It's down, half on your roof. He grabbed a rain jacket from the hook, tossing me a spare. Come on, let's check it. The air outside was thick, heavy with petrichor and the sharp snap of ozone. The drizzle cool on my skin as we trudged the path, boots sucking in the mud. The massive oak lay like a fallen giant, trunk split, branches clawing at my cabin's shingles, water pouring through the breach like a waterfall. Damn, I breathed, assessing the damage. Roof caved in spots, my bedroom exposed to the elements. That's gonna be a nightmare to fix. Jordan clapped a hand on my shoulder, steady as ever. Hey, we've got time. And hands. It'll hold till the crews get here. His touch lingered again, thumb brushing my neck in what could have been accident, but the spark said otherwise. We worked then, hacking at branches with an axe he fetched from his shed, muscles straining in the wet chill, grunts and laughter punctuating the labor. Sweat mixed with rain on our skin, shirts clinging, and in stolen glances, I caught him watching me. The flex of my arms, the way water traced paths down my chest, and the heat building had nothing to do with exertion. By noon, we'd cleared enough to tarp the worst, hands raw and backs aching, retreating inside for dry clothes and more coffee. Jordan's spares fit loosely, his scent clinging to the fabric, and as we collapsed on the couch, exhausted but alive, the radio crackled to life on static. Roads still closed, power sporadic, stay indoors. Trapped longer, the realization settled like a promise. That afternoon blurred into quiet revelations. We pored over his bookshelves, pulling volumes of Whitman and Baldwin, reading passages aloud in voices roughened by the sea air. We were together. I forget the rest. Jordan quoted from Leaves of Grass, his tone intimate, eyes never leaving mine, and the words wrapped around us like vines, pulling tighter. I shared sketches from my phone, safe ones, landscapes of the bay, but the hunger in his gaze made me ache to show more. As evening fell, the storm regrouping with fresh growls on the horizon, we cooked again. Pasta from his pantry, wine uncorked with a pop that echoed like a starting gun. Candles guttered on the table, casting shadows that danced like unspoken desires, and over the meal, the barriers crumbled further. Tell me about her, Jordan prompted gently, twirling spaghetti. The ex. What broke it? I hesitated, wine warming my veins, then let it spill. The fights, the silences, the way I'd caught myself staring at the barista with the easy smile and broad hands, guilt twisting like a knife. I think part of me always knew I was drawn to guys, but admitting it, that's the real storm. The confession hung, terrifying and freeing, and silence stretched, broken only by the rain's patter. Jordan's fork clattered down, his face paling, eyes wide with a mix of shock and recognition. Alex, he reached across, hand covering mine, trembling now. God, I've been there, hiding it, running from it. My family, Ohio Catholics, everyone, they'd disown me if they knew. But you, saying it out loud, that's brave. His thumb stroked my knuckles, a caress that ignited fire, and I flipped my hand, lacing our fingers. And you? What's your storm? He pulled back slightly, but not far, conflict raging in his eyes like the sea below. Not tonight, please. The plea was raw, laced with pain, and I nodded, heart aching for the secret he guarded so fiercely. But as we cleared plates, his body brushing mine in the tight space, the air hummed with possibility, the kind that could shatter or save. Night deepened, the storm lashing anew, and we built a nest on the floor by the fire. Blankets piled, Milo between us like a chaperone. Talk turned to dreams. Mine of a studio overlooking the bay, his of publishing that novel of a life unburdened. Laughter came easier, touches lingered longer. A hand on a knee during a story, shoulders pressed in shared warmth. When sleep finally claimed us, his arm draped across my waist in the dark, accidental or not, and my heart trembled with the weight of it all. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one awakening within. The second night of the storm dawned with a vengeance. The sky a bruised canopy unleashing sheets of rain that hammered the roof like accusations, as if nature itself conspired to keep us locked in this limbo of revelations half-made. I woke to the steady drumbeat, Jordan's arm still slung across me, his breath warm against my neck, and for a heartbeat, I let myself savor it. The solid weight of him, the way his fingers curled loosely against my hip, trust woven into the touch. Panic flickered then, sharp as lightning, urging me to pull away, to rebuild the walls before they crumbled entirely. But his murmur, sleepy, content, held me fast. Morning, he rasped, not moving, voice muffled against my shoulder. Yeah, I whispered back, throat dry, turning slowly to face him. Our noses brushed, eyes locking in the fire's dying glow, and the world narrowed to green depths flecked with uncertainty. Lips parted just enough to invite folly. The air crackled, thicker than the ozone outside, and I leaned in, halting, questioning, until his hand cupped my jaw, thumb tracing my stubble with a tenderness that undid me. Our mouths met, tentative at first, a brush of lips like testing storm-tossed waves, then deepening with a hunger that had simmered too long. He tasted of coffee and salt, his body shifting to press closer, solid and yielding all at once, and a groan escaped me, low and desperate. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, breaths mingling in the charged space. Alex, he breathed, hand trembling against my cheek. I shouldn't. We can't. But his eyes said the opposite, dark with want and wariness, and I silenced him with another kiss, slower this time, pouring all the confusion and clarity of the past day into it. His response was fierce, fingers threading through my hair, pulling me under like the riptide I'd always feared and craved. The moment shattered with a deafening crack. Not thunder, but the cabin shuddering as a gust hit broadside, lanterns swinging wildly, shadows leaping like specters. We sprang apart, hearts hammering, Milo yipping in alarm from his corner. Jordan laughed shakily, running a hand through his hair. Universe has a hell of a timing, but the levity faded quick, replaced by the weight of what we'd ignited. We need to talk, he said, voice steadying, pulling me to sit as the rain lashed harder. We did, words tumbling out in the flickering light, my fumbling admissions of bisexuality, the shame of hiding it from Sarah, the electric pull toward him since that first porch beer. You're the first person I've said it to, I confessed, vulnerability raw. The first who makes it feel possible. His nod was solemn, hand squeezing mine, but shadows gathered in his gaze. My turn, he said finally, voice dropping to a near whisper over the storm's roar. I'm gay, Alex, have been since I knew what the word meant. But it's not just that. He paused, jaw clenching, staring into the flames as if they held the script. In New York, I fell hard, for a guy named Theo, artist like you. We were fire, all nights in lofts and mornings tangled in sheets. But he had demons. Addiction, the kind that hollows you out. I tried to save him, stayed when I should have run, watched him spiral until one night, Jordan's voice broke, hand tightening like a vice. He OD'd in my arms, Alex, in our bed. I called 911, held him while they pried him away, but it was too late. The words landed like blows, each one carving deeper, and I pulled him close, arms wrapping around the tremor in his frame. God, Jordan, I'm so sorry. He buried his face in my neck, breath hitching, the secret spilling out in sobs muffled against my skin. The guilt that gnawed him, the way he'd fled to Eldridge to write it all down but couldn't face the page. I loved him, he choked. And it destroyed me. Haven't let anyone in since. Afraid I'll break them too, or they'll break me. We held on through the storm's next assault. Waves crashing audible even from the bluff. My hands stroking his back in slow circles, whispering nonsense about survival, about second chances. "You're not broken," I murmured into his hair. "And neither am I. We don't have to save each other. Just be here." He pulled back, eyes red-rimmed but clearing, and kissed me again, soft, grateful, a seal on the shared wound. The day unfolded in fragile normalcy, the storm a relentless companion as we ventured out to check damages again. The oak's debris had shifted in the night, threatening to slide toward his foundation, and we labored under ponchos, axes swinging in tandem, mud caking our legs like war paint. Laughter broke through the toil when Milo chased a branch into a puddle, emerging a sopping mess, and Jordan's grin, free, unshadowed, lit something fierce in me. Inside, we stripped to towels by the fire, steam rising from our skin, and the glances turned heated, bodies drawn like magnets despite the chill. That evening, as twilight bled into night, we cooked steak from his freezer, salvaged before the power's final betrayal, seared rare over the hearth, wine flowing freer. Conversation danced lighter now, laced with flirtation. Stories of college crushes, the absurdity of straight passing in small towns. But under it, the connection deepened, touches evolving from comfort to caress. His foot hooking mine under the table, my hand lingering on his thigh as I passed the salt. "What now?" I asked later, bodies entwined on the rug, fire painting us in gold. "Now," he whispered, lips grazing my ear. "We weather it, together." His hands explored, mapping scars and sensitive spots with reverent fingers, and I surrendered, the storm outside mirroring the one we unleashed. Wild, consuming, alive with promise. But dawn brought reckoning. The radio sputtered updates. Roads opening by noon, crews inbound. Freedom loomed, but so did fear, of the world intruding, of secrets tested in sunlight. As we packed the last of the tarps, Jordan's kiss goodbye lingered, fierce with unspoken pleas. "This isn't the end," he vowed against my lips. "Just the eye passing." I nodded, heart full and fracturing, stepping into the clearing drizzle toward my ruined cabin. The storm had passed, but the one we'd stirred? It was only beginning. Yet as I crossed the threshold, phone buzzing with signals return. Texts from work, friends checking in. A call pierced the haze. My brother, voice urgent. "Alex, mom's in the hospital. Heart scare. Get home." The words froze me, yanking me back to Ohio's grip, to family expectations I'd fled. Jordan's arms wrapped around me from behind, sensing the shift. "Go," he murmured. "I'll be here when you get back." But as I drove the flooded roads, the secret we'd shared echoing in my chest, doubt crept in like fog. Could love born in rage survive the calm? The highway stretched like a scar across California's sun-drenched skin, but my grip on the wheel was white-knuckled. The rearview mirror a portal to the bluff receding smaller, Jordan's figure on his porch a speck of resolve against the vast blue. Eldridge Bay faded with the salt air, replaced by the dry inland heat, and the knot in my gut twisting tighter with every mile toward LAX. Mom's call, relayed through my brother, had been sparse, irregular heartbeat, tests pending. "Come home, Alex, she needs you, needs me." The words mocked the distance I'd put between us, the years of polite Christmases and dodged questions about my settling down. At 28, I was the prodigal graphic designer, the one who'd bolted west after college, chasing pixels and anonymity while they clung to Ohio's rusting heartland. The flight was a blur of recycled air and regret, my sketchbook open on the tray table, pencil scratching frantic lines. A portrait of Jordan emerging from the chaos, eyes fierce with the secret's weight, lips curved in that half-smile that unraveled me. Theo's ghost lingered in the margins, a shadowed form, and I wondered if I was chasing my own destruction, drawn to a man whose heart bore fractures I might widen. Texts pinged sporadically. Jordan's first, "Safe skies, Harper. Call when you land. Thinking of you." Then my brother's, "She's stable but weak. Hurry." No mention of Dad's silence, the man who'd always measured love in stoic nods and unspoken rules. Cleveland greeted me with autumn chill, leaves carpeting the tarmac in fiery decay, and the drive to the hospital in Akron was a time warp. Suburban sprawl unchanged since my teens, billboards preaching family values like sermons. Mom lay pale in the sterile room, her lines snaking like accusations, her smile frail but genuine as she squeezed my hand. "My boy," she whispered, voice thin. "You came." Dad hovered in the corner, arms crossed, eyes avoiding mine, the air thick with the unsaid. "Why so long away? Who are you really?" Days bled into a rhythm of vigils and revelations. Mom rallied slowly, her heartbeat steadying under Monitor's watchful eyes, but conversations unearthed roots I'd long ignored. Over hospital cafeteria coffee, bitter as regret, she confessed her own storms, The loneliness of Dad's factory shifts, the church's rigid gaze that had made her question her fire for women's lit in secret. I hid parts of me too, Alex, she said one evening, Dad dozing in the chair. For peace. But peace without truth? It's just a prettier cage. Her words echoed Jordan's, piercing the armor I'd worn since the divorce, and tears pricked as I admitted fragments. The ache of unshared love, the man waiting on the coast who'd cracked me open. Dad's thaw came grudgingly, a gruff proud of you, son, over takeout pizza in her room. But his eyes held questions, the kind that probed too deep. Seeing anyone? He asked, casual as weather, and I choked on a lie, mumbling about work instead. The hypocrisy burned. Preaching truth to Mom while burying my own. Nights in my childhood bedroom, posters faded ghosts. I video called Jordan, his face pixelated but grounding, green eyes a lifeline across the miles. How's the warrior? He'd tease, voice low to not wake the house, and we'd talk for hours. His manuscript pages advancing, Milo's antics, the way the bay's calm felt hollow without me. Tell me more about Theo, I urged one midnight. The hospital's hum distant through the phone. His hesitation stretched, then broke. Stories of stolen weekends in the village, Theo's wild laugh echoing in galleries, the slow poison of pills masking deeper pains, rejection from family, the art world's cruelty. I thought love was enough, Jordan said, voice cracking. But it can't fix what someone won't face. The parallel to my own fears chilled me. Could I be enough for him? Or was I just another wave crashing against unhealable shores? A week in, Mom discharged, home a cocoon of soup and sitcoms, and the pull westward grew insistent. But Dad cornered me one crisp morning in the garage, tools clinking like chains. Your mother's right, you've been running. His eyes so like mine bored in. From what, exactly? The dam cracked then, words spilling in a rush. The confusion of desires, the bar in San Francisco, Jordan's kiss in the storm's heart. Bye, Dad, and I love him, or I'm falling hard. Silence stretched, heavy as the oil-scented air. Then his hand on my shoulder. Clumsy, but there. Takes guts, son. More than I ever had. No embrace, but absolution. And as I hugged Mom goodbye, her whisper, be brave, like you were for me, sealed it. The flight back was sunlight and certainty, landing in a California evening painted in pinks and golds, the bluff calling like a siren's song. Jordan waited at arrivals, leaning against his truck, stubble shadowing his jaw, eyes lighting as I approached. Our hug was fierce, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces, his lips brushing my temple. Missed you, he murmured, and the tremble returned. Not fear, but the quake of homecoming. Eldridge welcomed us with open arms, the town abuzz with storm tales over diner pie, but our world shrank to his cabin, now ours in unspoken agreement. We rebuilt mine side by side, hammers swinging in sync, laughter echoing as we tarped and nailed, bodies brushing in the intimacy of labor, evenings blurred into nights of exploration. His hands mapping my skin by candlelight, my lips tracing the scar on his lip, learning its story. A bar fight in New York, defending Theo from jeers. My first real stand, he confessed, fingers in my hair. For love. But shadows lingered. One night, weeks in, as autumn winds whispered warnings, Jordan's manuscript hit a wall. Theo's death scene refusing to yield, words jamming like debris. He paced, frustration etching lines, until I pulled him down, kissing the tension away. Write it with me, I suggested, sketchpad in hand. Together, we wove it. His prose flowing, my drawings visualizing the brother's tempest, pain transmuted to art. See, I said, holding up a page of swirling seas and clasped hands. We don't fix it, we carry it. Yet the world intruded. A call from his agent. Interest in the novel, but revisions needed, deeper vulnerability. Make the love raw. Panic flickered in his eyes, old fears rising. What if they see too much? What if you do? I cupped his face, steady. I already do, and I stay. Our lovemaking that night was urgent. An affirmation against doubt. Bodies entwined as thunder rumbled distant, echoing our first storm. As leaves turned, the town festival loomed. Eldridge's harvest fair, bonfires and cider, a test of our quiet bubble. Go public, Jordan asked, hand in mine on the porch. Or ease in, I squeezed, heart full. Your pace, but I'm proud to stand with you. The secret he'd shared still trembled my heart. Not with fear, but awe at its gift. Love, in all its raging glory, was rewriting us both. Autumn in Eldridge Bay painted the cliffs in russet and gold. The ocean's temper mellowed to a gentle lap against the shore. But beneath the idyllic veneer, tensions simmered like embers waiting for wind. Jordan and I had settled into a rhythm. Mornings with coffee on his porch, Milo chasing gulls. Afternoons of work, my designs blooming under his quiet inspiration. His manuscript swelling with chapters that bled honesty. Our bodies spoke a language of rediscovery. Nights tangled in sheets that smelled of sea and cedar, whispers of stay, and more weaving through the dark. Yet the secret he'd bared, that raw wound of Theo's loss, lurked like fog, rolling in unbidden on quiet days, clouding his eyes with ghosts. It hit hardest during revisions. His agent, a sharp-tongued New Yorker named Lila, fired notes via email. The love arc needs teeth. Show the mess, the fear of loss. Readers crave the tremble. Jordan read them aloud one crisp afternoon, laptop glowing on the kitchen table, voice steady but fingers drumming a staccato beat. She's right, he admitted, closing the screen with a click that echoed too loud. But digging deeper, it's like reopening the grave. I slid beside him, hand on his thigh, feeling the tension coiled there. Then dig with me. We turned the pain into power. We did, holing up in the cabin as leaves skittered past windows like fleeing thoughts. I'd sketch while he typed, storm-swept figures embracing on decks, faces etched with the exquisite agony of vulnerability, and slowly, the pages turned cathartic. One evening, as dusk bruised the sky, he read a passage aloud. The brothers, post-rescue, confessing loves amid wreckage. In the calm's deceit, we found our rage, not to destroy, but to rebuild. His voice broke on the last word, eyes meeting mine wet and wondrous. That's us, Alex. You gave me that. The praise warmed me, but doubt nipped at its heels. My own work faltered. A client pitch for a queer-lit cover, bold lines of intertwined forms that mirrored our nights, rejected for being too provocative. Tone it down, the email read, and I hurled my tablet across the room, frustration boiling. Jordan found me on the beach later, boots sinking in wet sand, waves gnawing at my resolve. Hey, he said softly, wrapping arms around me from behind, chin on my shoulder. It's not them. It's fear, same as mine. We walked then, hand in hand, the tide pooling around our ankles, talking through the sting. I came out to my folks, I confessed, pebbles crunching. Partial but real. Dad didn't bolt progress. He squeezed my hand, pride in his gaze. That's huge. And this, he lifted our joined fingers. This is huge too. The kiss that followed was salt-kissed, deepening as gulls wheeled overhead, a vow against the world's timid gaze. But the festival loomed, Eldridge's annual bash, a microcosm of small-town scrutiny. Booths of pumpkin pie and craft beer, hayrides under harvest moons, whispers trading like cider cups. Jordan's tension mounted, manuscript submitted but fate pending, and the idea of us, out hand in hand, stirred old panics. What if they stare? Judge? He voiced one night, bodies cooling post-love, sheets twisted like worries. I traced his scar, grounding. Let them. We're the story worth telling. The night arrived crisp, air humming with fiddle tunes from the square, lanterns strung like stars against the bluff. We drove in his truck, Milo in the back, my hand on his knee the whole way, a silent anchor. The crowd was a swirl of flannel and freckles, locals nodding hellos with knowing smiles. And as we stepped out, fingers laced, heads turned subtle but sure. Mrs. Hargrove from the diner paused mid-pie slice, eyes widening before softening to a wink. About time, boys, she muttered, pressing extras into our hands. The bonfire crackled central, flames leaping high as stories spun. Storm survival tales, mostly mine and Jordan's, embellished to legend. We laughed through it, beers in hand, but when a cluster of fishermen, rough-hewn faces from the docks, eyed us sidelong, Jordan's grip tightened. Ignore? I whispered, pulling him to dance as a slow reel started, body swaying awkward but earnest amid couples. His laugh bubbled free, head tipping back, and in that moment, under the moon's benevolent gaze, the world felt conquerable. Trouble brewed later, as embers died to glow. A voice slurred from the shadows. Tom Riley, town drunk with a grudge, face flushed from whiskey. Hail that you're new, project. Heard about your kinda love up in the city. Filth washes up here too. The slur landed like a slap, crowd hushing, and Jordan stiffened, color draining. I stepped forward, heat rising. Back off, Tom. Night's too good for your shit. But Jordan's hand on my arm stayed me, eyes steel. No, Alex. Let me. He faced Tom, voice even. Yeah, it's love. Real as yours or better. Lost one to hate once. Won't lose another. The words hung, Theo's echo in every syllable, and Tom faltered, mumbling retreat as murmurs rippled. Sympathy, surprise, a few nods of solidarity. The crowd dispersed slow, backs patted, and in the truck ride home, Jordan exhaled long. Did it. For us. Pride swelled, but the night's weight lingered. At the cabin, we made love fierce and affirming, reclaiming what slurs couldn't touch, but dawn brought Lila's email. Acceptance, with buzz. Raw, trembling, it's gold. Elation crashed with terror, exposure on a larger scale, his heart laid bare for critics to prod. What if they hate it? He fretted, pacing. I pulled him close. They won't hate the truth. And if they do, we have this. Yet cracks showed. My designs poured out, queer heroes and tempests, covers for stories like ours, and a gallery in Monterey Bit, offering a show. Come with me, I urged, but Jordan hesitated. Manuscript's launch date clashing. Go shine, he said, kiss masking the shadow. Distance tested us, calls turning terse amid deadlines, old insecurities whispering. A week in, hotel room lonely, I confessed over video. Miss you. Feels like the storm's back. His smile faltered. Me too. But Theo. He pulled away when it got real. Scared I'll do the same. The admission gutted, our secrets underbelly exposed. You're not him, I insisted. We're us. Reconciliation came in person. Him surprising me at the gallery opening. Eyes proud as he viewed my stormscapes. Beautiful. Like you. Back in Eldridge, unity rebuilt. But winter loomed. Winds sharpening. Mirroring the edge on our bliss. A letter arrived. His family's post-holiday card with a pointed "Come home, son. Bring a nice girl." The barb sliced, and Jordan crumpled it, face ashen. They'll never know. I held him through the night, vowing silently. We'd face it together, secrets transforming to strengths. But as snow flurried first flakes, a call from Lila shattered calm. Book tour, national. You in. The world beckoned, trembling our fragile haven. Winter clamped down on Eldridge Bay like a vice, snow dusting the cliffs in reluctant white. The ocean's growl muffled under ice-rimed waves, but inside Jordan's cabin, our cabin now, the warmth we kindled burned brighter, a defiant hearth against the chill. The book tour loomed like a double-edged blade. Lila's excitement crackling through calls. Pre-orders exploding. Jordan, you're the next big queer voice. Clashing with the knot of exposure tightening in his gut. Stages, signings, questions about Theo. He confided one frosty morning, breath fogging the window as he stared at the slate-gray sea. What if I freeze? What if they see the cracks? I wrapped arms around him from behind, chin on his shoulder, our reflections overlapping in the glass like a promise. Then they see strength. You've carried this alone too long. At 28, I'd learned vulnerability wasn't fracture but foundation. My gallery show a success. Queer buyers snapping up prints, emails from strangers thanking me for seeing us. It emboldened, pushing me to pitch a graphic novel. Our story, abstracted. Two men in a tempest, secrets unraveling to sales. Jordan's nod, tentative then fervent, sealed it. Ours? He murmured, turning to kiss me slow, hands framing my face. Let's make it epic. Preparations wove us tighter. Him rehearsing readings by the fire, voice gaining timbre. Me inking panels, bodies entwined in the narrative. Kisses amid debris, confessions under lightning. Milo's pause padded commentary, tail thumps approval, and nights blurred into passion laced with purpose. His body arching under mine with gasps that echoed the waves. Love you, slipped out first from him, post-climax. Eyes vulnerable in the afterglow, and I echoed it back, heart clenching at the rightness, the terror of its fragility. The tour kicked off in San Francisco, a whirlwind of fog-shrouded streets and packed indie bookstores. Jordan on stage under spotlights, manuscript in hand. I sat front row, pride swelling as he read the storm scene. Our storm, voice steady, pausing for the tremble that drew gasps and nods. Q&A turned raw. How much is autobiographical? A young guy asked, eyes wide. Jordan glanced my way, hand finding mine off mic. All of it. Loss, love, the rage that remakes you. Applause thundered, tears glinting, and backstage, his kiss was fierce. We did it. Cities blurred, Seattle's rain mirroring our first night. Portland's hip crowds toasting with IPAs. Each stop peeling layers. Fans sharing stories of hidden loves, parents confessing regrets. In Chicago, a heckler shouted slurs from the back. Fairy tales don't sell. And the room tensed, but Jordan faced it, mic steady. They do when they're true. And mine's just beginning. Security escorted the man out to cheers, and later in the hotel he broke, sobs against my chest, the weight of visibility crashing. Theo never got this, he whispered. A chance to be seen. I held him through it, murmuring of resilience, but my own shadows stirred. Back home briefly for a storm break. Winds howling fresh fury. My graphic novel proofs arrived, bold and beautiful, but Dad's email followed. Saw your interview. Proud but careful, son. World chews up dreamers. The caution stung, old doubts resurfacing, and I snapped at Jordan over dinner, words sharp. Easy for you, your pain's poetic. Mine's just messy. He recoiled, eyes hurt, and the silence that followed was colder than the snow. Reconciliation came halting. A walk on the bluff at dawn, boots crunching frost, Milo bounding ahead. I'm scared too, I admitted, breath clouds mingling. Of losing you to the spotlight or me to the noise. He stopped, pulling me close, lips cold but insistent. Then we anchor each other. No more hiding. The kiss thawed us, leading home to make up slow and deep, reaffirming bonds. Spring thawed the bay, wildflowers rioting along paths, and the tour's crescendo hit New York, Theo's city, a gauntlet of ghosts. Jordan paled on the flight, hand clammy in mine, and at the reading in a village haunt they'd frequented, emotion choked him mid-page. This one's for you, T, he managed, voice cracking, and the crowd hushed, tissues rustling. Post-event, we visited the loft sold, but memories thick, standing on the stoop as taxis honked dirges. He'd love you, Jordan said, tears freezing on lashes. Strong where I falter. I kissed his temple. You don't falter. You rise. Launch night was triumph. Bestseller lists beckoning. My novel's teaser dropped to acclaim. Us arm in arm at the party. Rings glinting. Impulse decision in a jeweler's. Simple bands vowing forever. But joy cracked with a call. His mother's voice, post-reading clip viral. Jordan? That you on TV? With him. Silence stretched. Then ice. We raised you better. Click. He shattered then. Phone hurling. Sobs racking as I gathered him on the hotel floor. Lost them, he gasped. For this. No, I countered fierce, cupping his face. You found us, and they might come around or not. But you're not alone. Days blurred in healing. Therapy sessions I'd nudged. Walks in Central Park where blossoms mocked winter's bite. A letter arrived mid-tour end. His sister's tentative. Saw the book. Proud. Mom's processing. Dad. Silent but thawing. Love you always. Hope flickered, fragile as first leaves. Home to Eldridge, summer blooming, we rebuilt. Cabin expansions for studios side by side. Milo with a new pup sibling. Town embracing with pride flags fluttering come June. My novel launched to fanfare, Jordan's forward. To the storm that saved me, drawing tears. Yet in quiet nights, secrets evolved. His sharing Theo's letters, yellowed confessions of love and regret. Me unveiling boyhood sketches of crushes unspoken. We're whole, he said one starlit eve, bodies swaying on the porch to distant waves. Tremble and all. But life tested. A rival author, Jealous Ink, penned a smear piece, Hale's Tempest. More sob story than substance? And backlash stung, sales dipping, doubts roaring. Jordan withdrew, manuscript 2 locked away, and our fights sharpened, me pushing exposure, him craving cave. You don't get it, he yelled one thunderous night, storm echoing irony. This isn't just words. It's me, flayed. I stormed out, rain lashing, heart raw, crashing at the diner till dawn. Return was apology wrapped in raincoats, words halting. I pushed too hard. Forgive. His embrace answered. Fierce. Always. We're the I now, calm in the rage. Therapy deepened it. Couple sessions unpacking Theo's shadow. My by fears, forging steelier bonds. Summer's end brought festival redux. Us on stage, reading joint excerpts, crowd roaring love. As fireworks burst over the bay, his whisper, marry me, for real? Trembled my heart anew. Yes, the stars answered. Summer's blaze yielded to autumn's amber hush in Eldridge Bay, the cliffs etched with windswept resilience, mirroring the quiet strength we'd carved from chaos. Jordan's proposal hung between us like a lighthouse beam, steady, guiding, through the months that followed. Our engagement a gentle unfolding rather than fanfare. No grand gestures, just a sunset hike where he knelt on the bluff, ring glinting against crashing waves, voice rough with emotion. You trembled my heart, Alex. Be my forever storm. Tears blurred my yes, our kiss sealed with salt spray, Milo barking joy as if officiating. Planning wove whimsy and wait. A small ceremony on the beach come spring, invites to town allies and tentative family. My parents en route to acceptance, his sister confirmed, parent silence a scar we'd honor but not let scar us. Jordan's book soared to paperback, tours trimmed to joy, and my graphic novel's sequel brewed. Our wedding sketched in panels of vows amid petals and sea foam. Nights deepened intimacy, bodies and souls entwined, his fingers tracing my ink stains, my lips mapping his scars, whispers of future. A shared studio, adoptions dreamed, legacies of love unhidden. Yet storms never fully sleep. Winter's relapse hit with Lila's bombshell. Film right sniff, Hollywood circling, queer romance with teeth, Jordan's thrill ward with terror, Theo's ghost whispering sabotage. What if they sanitize us? Turn pain to pretty? He fretted, pacing snow-dusted porch. I pulled him inside, fire crackling judgment. Then we fight. For the raw, the tremble. Meetings ensued, us tag-teaming execs in sleek LA offices, Jordan's voice gaining thunder. No bows on the rage. It's our truth. They yielded, script drafts raw as his pages, and pride bloomed, validation not just seen but amplified. Family bridges mended jagged. My folks arrived early spring, Mom hugging Jordan fierce. Heard the book, beautiful, like you 2-inch, Dad's handshake firm. Eyes soft, took me time, son, but love's love. His sister's visit thawed more, tales of Ohio winters shared over chowder, but his parents' absence loomed. A letter came pre-wedding, his mother's script, shaky. We watched the clip, saw your light, can't make the trip health, but blessings, son. Be happy. Tears fell as he read, my arms his harbor. It's enough, he murmured. For now. The wedding dawned cerulean, bay calm as glass, wildflowers nodding along the aisle of driftwood and shells. Guests sparse but soul deep. Diner folk, artist friends, Milo in a bow tie waddling rings. Jordan waited at the arch, green eyes luminous, suit hugging his frame like waves to shore. Vows poured raw mine. You trapped me in your storm, and I never want out. Through trembles and tempests, I choose you. His voice breaking. You saw my secrets, held my heart's quake. Together we rage eternal. Rings exchanged, kiss crashing like thunder, cheers erupting as gulls wield witness. Honeymoon whispered local. A cabin up coast, days hiking redwoods, nights under stars making love to ocean lullabies. This, he breathed post-climax, fingers laced over my heart, is the eye we earned. Return brought bustle. Film greenlit, my novel touring tandem, us a duo in lights, panels on queer joy, interviews laced with humor and heat. Backlash nipped, trolls online, a protest at a signing, but we faced it laced. Jordan's quip, hate's just wind. Our love's the cliff, going viral, turning barbs to badges. Challenges crested summer's peak. Fertility talks, adoption paths winding bureaucratic mazes, but hope anchored. Foster pup named Theo, a nod healing. Jordan's sequel brewed, Theo's arc redeemed in fiction's grace, and my art evolved. Galleries worldwide, pieces of us in frames. One autumn eve, storm brewing distant, we sat porch swaying, Milo Sr. gray-muzzled at feet. Regrets? I asked, head on his shoulder. None, he said, kissing my temple. You? The neighbor who knocked in the rain. I laughed, heart full. Best trap ever. Thunder grumbled approval, rain pattering first drops, but we stayed, entwined. No fear, only the thrill of weather shared. Years rippled. Film premiered to acclaim, us on red carpet, hands clasped against flashes. Adoptions granted, 2 boys with eyes like seas, family swelling with laughter and lessons. Jordan's parents visited once. Awkward bridge crossed in tears and talks. Forgiveness a quiet wave. My folks hosted Thanksgivings, Dad carving turkey with stories of his own hidden softness. A college crush unspoken, peace in late bloom. At 40, looking back from the bluff, sketches of our first storm framed in the studio, Jordan's arm around me, grandsons chasing Milo 3, I see the arc. Rage to revelation, secrets to symphony. The tremble? It's joy now, heart quaking not in fear, but the profound pulse of love endured. In America's vast tapestry, our thread vibrant, unapologetic, reminds. Storms don't end us, they birth us anew. And as another tempest brews offshore, we stand ready. Neighbors no more, but eternal in the eye's embrace.